The year was 2387, and humanity had learned to keep quiet in the vast galaxy. For over 100 years, humans had been part of the Galactic Coalition, but they were treated like children among adults. The powerful Velter Empire controlled most of the known worlds, and they saw humans as weak and primitive. Human weapons were old-fashioned kinetic guns that fired metal bullets, while the Empire used advanced energy beams and plasma cannons. Dr. Hana Kim floated in zero gravity inside the ancient ship, her helmet light cutting through the darkness. The vessel had been drifting in the asteroid belt near Sirius for who knows how long. Mining robots had found it by accident 3 days ago, and now she was leading the first team to explore it. This is impossible, she whispered to herself as she moved through the corridors. The ship's design was completely unknown to her, yet it was clearly human-made. The writing on the walls was in Korean and English, but the technology looked both old and incredibly advanced at the same time. Her team member, Dr. Yun Jiho, called out from the bridge, "Hana, you need to see this. The computer systems are still working." She pushed herself through the narrow hallways toward the bridge. The ship was huge, much larger than any human vessel she had ever seen. The walls were covered in thick armor plating that looked like it could stop a nuclear explosion. Strange weapons lined the sides of the ship, massive guns that were bigger than anything in the current human fleet. On the bridge, ancient computers hummed with life. The screen showed star maps and weapon systems that Hana had never seen before. Most shocking of all, the dates on the computer log showed this ship was built in 2156, almost 20 years before humans had first met aliens. How is this possible, Dr. Yun asked, staring at the data. We didn't have this technology back then. We barely had working space stations. Hana found the ship's main database and began reading through the files. Her hands started shaking as she discovered the truth. The ship was called the UES Yamato's Vengeance, and it was commanded by someone named Admiral Tae Minyu, but that name didn't exist in any history books. The more she read, the more frightened she became. This wasn't just a ship. It was a weapon of war designed to fight enemies that humanity hadn't even met yet. The log showed that Earth scientists had detected the Velter Empire's expansion through space decades. Before first contact, they had been watching the Empire destroy other worlds and enslave their people. They knew. Hana said quietly, Earth knew the Empire was coming, and they built this ship to fight them. The ship's weapons were terrifying. Instead of energy beams, it used rail guns that could fire metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The computer showed test results where single shots had destroyed targets the size of small moons. The armor was made from materials that shouldn't exist, metals that were harder than diamond, but lighter than aluminum. Dr. Yun found more files about the ship's power source. Hana, look at this. The reactor uses controlled black holes to generate power that's impossible with our current technology, but these readings show it actually works. As they explored deeper into the ship's systems, they found something even more disturbing. Hidden throughout the solar system were automated shipyards that had been building more ships like this one for over 200 years. The Yamato's Vengeance wasn't alone. It was just the first of an entire fleet. Admiral Tae Minyu's personal logs revealed the full story. He had been Earth's top military scientist, working in secret to prepare for an invasion that most people didn't believe would ever come. While politicians talked about peaceful exploration of space, Tay had been building humanity's most advanced weapons. We cannot trust that the galaxy will welcome us, one of his logs said. Every species the Empire has encountered has either joined them willingly or been destroyed. I will not let humanity become another slave race. The Admiral had designed the ship to be completely different from anything the Empire had ever faced. While alien ships relied on energy shields and plasma weapons, the Yamato's vengeance used pure kinetic force. Its bullets moved so fast that energy shields couldn't stop them. The ship's armor was designed to absorb and redirect energy attacks, making the Empire's main weapons almost useless against it. Hana discovered that the ship had an artificial intelligence built into its core systems. The AI had been programmed with Admiral Tay's personality and memories, creating a digital copy of Earth's greatest military mind. For over 200 years, this AI had been waiting in the darkness, keeping the ship ready for the war that never came. Until now, Hana whispered as she read the latest galactic news reports. The Velter Empire was expanding again, and this time they were looking toward human space. War was coming, just as Admiral Tay had predicted centuries ago. She sent an emergency message to Earth Command, but she knew they wouldn't believe her at first. The idea that Earth had secretly built the most powerful warship in the galaxy would seem impossible. But the proof was right here, floating in the asteroid belt, where it had waited patiently for over 2 centuries. The Yamato's vengeance wasn't just a ship, it was humanity's hidden ace weapon that could change the balance of power in the entire galaxy. The Empire thought humans were weak and primitive, but they had never seen what humanity could build when they were truly afraid. As Hana and her team prepared to return to Earth, she couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. The galaxy had learned to see humans as harmless explorers and traders. Soon, they would discover that humanity had been preparing for war since the day they first looked up at the stars. Forgotten Guardian had been found, and Admiral Tay Minu's long wait was finally over. The time had come to show the galaxy what humanity was really capable of when they stopped pretending to be peaceful. War Marshal Ketmos stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display with bored confidence. 500 Imperial warships were moving into perfect attack formation around a single human vessel. In 30 years of conquest, he had never seen such an easy victory. Marshal, the human ship is moving out from behind that asteroid, his tactical officer reported. It's heading directly toward our center formation. Ketmos studied the enemy vessel through the main viewer. It was larger than most human ships, but nothing compared to Imperial dreadnoughts. Its hull was dark and scarred, looking more like an ancient relic than a proper warship. The humans were sending their museum pieces to fight the Empire's finest. Signal all ships, he ordered. Target practice formation. Will destroy this craft slowly. Let them watch their primitive vessel fall apart piece by piece. Record everything for transmission back to their pathetic colonies. The Imperial fleet spread out in a perfect hunting pattern. 500 ships forming a sphere around their prey. Energy cannons charged to full power. plasma torpedoes loaded in their tubes. It was the same formation that had destroyed the fleet of the Kepler Confederation, the battle group of the Real Defense Force, and dozens of other enemies. Captain Jaywalk watched the Empire ships move into position with cold calculation. His crew was tense but ready. They had trained for weeks on the ship's weapon systems, learning to work with the advanced AI that controlled most functions. All stations report ready for combat, Lee Dong-ho announced. From the weapons console, rail guns loaded with standard kinetic rounds, planet crackers loaded in tubes 7 through 12, engineering shows reactor at maximum output. Park Mi reported all systems operating within normal parameters. Navigator Choi had the ship positioned exactly where Admiral Tae wanted it. The ancient AI had studied Imperial tactics for centuries, and he knew exactly how they would attack. The enemy formation was perfect for what he had planned. Captain Admiral Ta's voice said calmly, "The Empire is about to make their first and last mistake. They've spread their ships out to maximize fire coverage, but that leaves each vessel isolated and vulnerable. On the Imperial flagship, Katmos raised his claw to give the attack order. 500 ships would fire at once, turning the human vessel into expanding gas and metal fragments. It would be a lesson the entire galaxy would remember. All ships open fire, he commanded, but Captain Wook was faster. Fire all weapons, he ordered quietly. The UES Yamatos Vengeance unleashed hell. Every rail gun fired simultaneously, launching tungsten rods accelerated to 97% of light speed. The kinetic projectiles crossed the distance to their targets in micros seconds, moving too fast for Imperial sensors to track. The first salvo hit 6 Imperial dreadnoughts before their crews even knew they were under attack. The tungsten rods punched through their energy shields like they weren't there, passing completely through the ship's holes and out the other side. Kinetic energy transfer vaporized everything within a kilometer radius of each impact point. 6 massive warships simply disappeared in balls of superheated plasma. Impossible, Ketmos screamed as his tactical display showed 6 ships vanishing from existence. What kind of weapon can do that? His answer came in the form of the second salvo. The Yamato's Vengeance fired again, and 6 more Imperial ships died instantly. The ancient human vessel wasn't using energy weapons at all. It was firing solid projectiles that moved faster than anything the Empire had ever seen. All ships return fire, concentrate everything on that vessel. The Imperial fleet opened up with everything they had, energy beams and plasma torpedoes streamed toward the human ship. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon, but when the weapons struck their target, something impossible happened. The Yamato's Vengeance absorbed the attack. Its hull was designed specifically to handle energy weapons, special armor plating redirected plasma bursts and dispersed laser fire across the ship's surface. What should have destroyed the vessel barely scorched its paint. Their weapons aren't working, Lee Dong-ho shouted with excitement. The armor is absorbing everything they throw at us. Admiral Ta's voice carried cold satisfaction. The Empire has relied on energy weapons for so long they've forgotten how to fight anything else. Continue firing, Captain. Show them what real warfare looks like. The third salvo destroyed 8 ships. The fourth took out 10. The Yamato's vengeance moved through the Imperial formation. Like a shark among minnows, its rail. Guns firing continuously, each shot was perfectly aimed, calculated by the ship's advanced targeting systems to cause maximum destruction. War Marshal Ketmos watched his fleet die. Around him, unable to comprehend what was happening, his ships were firing everything they had at the human vessel. But their weapons seemed completely useless. Meanwhile, the enemy craft was systematically destroying his forces with weapons he didn't understand. "Marshal, we've lost over 200 ships," his tactical officer reported, his voice shaking with fear. "Our weapons can't penetrate their armor." "Then get closer, ram the cursed thing if you have to." But getting closer only made things worse. The Yamato's vengeance carried more than just rail guns, weapons. Officer Lee activated the planet crackers, exotic weapons that had been waiting over 2 centuries for their first combat use. The planet crackers were projectiles containing compressed neutron star material. When they hit an Imperial ship, they didn't just punch through the hull, they detonated inside, releasing the gravitational force of a collapsed star in a confined space. The results were spectacular and terrifying. Entire Imperial dreadnoughts collapsed on themselves, crushed by artificial gravity fields that compressed their holes into balls of super-dense metal. Other ships were torn apart by gravitational tidal forces that ripped them into component atoms. Navigator Choi guided the ship through the enemy formation with impossible grace. Yamato's vengeance moved like it weighed nothing, turning and twisting between enemy vessels while its guns never stopped firing. The ship's gravitational manipulation systems allowed it to change direction instantly, making it nearly impossible to target. "Sir, they're trying to surround us," Choi reported. "Let them," Admiral Tay replied. "The more ships they bring into close range, the more we can destroy." With each salvo, the battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it was over, the Imperial Vanguard fleet had been completely annihilated. 488 warships had been destroyed, their crews numbering in the millions. Only 12 ships managed to escape, badly damaged and fleeing in terror. War Marshal Ketmos died when a tungsten rod traveling at near light speed bisected his flagship from bow to stern. His final transmission to the Empire was a single word broadcast on all frequencies as his ship exploded around him. "Run!" On the bridge of the Yamato's vengeance, Captain Wook and his crew stared at their tactical display in stunned silence. The space around them was filled with debris and expanding clouds of plasma. All that remained of the Empire's advanced fleet. "Casualties?" Wook asked. "None, sir," Parkmani reported. "Minor damage to the forward armor plating, but all systems are operational." "Ammunition status?" "We used less than 3% of our standard rounds," Lee Dongho said with amazement. The planet crackers were incredibly effective. Each one destroyed multiple targets. Admiral Ta's voice carried quiet satisfaction. "The first test is complete. The ship performed exactly as designed. The Empire now knows that humanity is no longer defenseless." But Captain Wook knew this was only the beginning. The Empire's vanguard had been destroyed, but 10,000 more ships were still gathering for the main assault. The real battle was yet to come. News of the victory spread across the galaxy within hours. The impossible had happened. Single human ship had destroyed an entire imperial fleet. Species that had surrendered to the Empire began to reconsider their decisions. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting. For the first time in centuries, the Velter Empire had tasted defeat, and they did not like it. Emperor Vexthal's roar of rage echoed through the throne room of his massive flagship. The holographic display showed the scattered remains of War Marshal Ketmos's fleet, nothing but debris and expanding plasma clouds where 500 mighty warships had once been. Impossible, he screamed, his claws scraping against the metal armrests of his throne. 500 ships destroyed by a single primitive vessel. How is this possible? His advisors cowered before him, afraid to speak. The Emperor's fury was legendary throughout the Empire, and more than one messenger had died delivering bad news. Finally, his chief military advisor, General Morkan, stepped forward. My Emperor, we have analyzed the battle recordings from the surviving ships. The human vessel used weapons we have never encountered before. They fire solid projectiles at incredible speeds, faster than our sensors can track. Solid projectiles. Vexel spat. Primitive kinetic weapons. Our energy shield should deflect such things easily. That's just it, sire. The projectiles move so fast that our shields cannot stop them. They pass right through as if the barriers don't exist, and their ship's armor seems designed specifically to absorb energy. Weapons. The Emperor studied the tactical recordings, watching his proud warships die one by one. Each human shot was perfectly aimed, destroying Imperial dreadnoughts with single hits. The human ship moved through his formation like it was dancing, untouchable and deadly. Mobilize the Grand Armada, he commanded. Every ship, every warrior, every weapon the Empire possesses, we will gather at the edge of human space and destroy their entire species. No one defies the Empire in lives. Across the galaxy, the largest military force in history began to assemble. 10,000 warships converged on the Sol system, representing the combined might of 1,000 conquered worlds. At the center of the Armada was the Emperor's personal flagship, the Eternal Dominion, a battle station so large it had its own gravity field. The coalition watched in horror as Imperial forces massed for invasion. Most member species completed their surrender negotiations, hoping to avoid the fate that awaited humanity. Refugee ships fled human space in massive waves as billions tried to escape the coming storm on Earth. Emergency evacuation procedures were in full swing. Admiral Chen Heiyu coordinated the largest refugee operation in human history, trying to get as many people as possible to safety before the Imperial Armada arrived. Admiral, the evacuation ships are requesting military escorts. Her aide reported, they're afraid the Empire will attack civilian vessels. Grant their request, Chen ordered. Use everything we have except the Yamatos. Vengeance. Captain Wuk's ship needs to stay hidden until the main battle begins. In the asteroid belt, Captain J. Wuk was dealing with his own crisis. His crew was exhausted from their first battle, and the weight of responsibility was crushing. They were humanity's only hope against an enemy that outnumbered them 10,000 to 1. Captain, we're receiving a message from Earth Command, Navigator Choi reported. They want us to fall back to the outer system and conduct hit-and-run attacks. Wuk shook his head. Admiral Tay, what's Your assessment, the ship's AI. Considered the question carefully. Running would be tactically sound. Against a conventional enemy, but the Empire is not conventional. They will pursue us to the edge of the galaxy, if necessary. Our best chance is to meet them here in the Sol system, where we have advantages they don't know about. What advantages? Wook asked the automated shipyard's captain. They have been working continuously since Dr. Kim's discovery 3 weeks ago. 47 additional vessels are now operational. Chief Engineer Park looked up from her console in surprise. 47 more ships like this one, not quite as advanced, Admiral Tay admitted. They lack some of the original's more exotic weapons, but each one carries the same devastating rail guns and kinetic ammunition. More importantly, each ship has a copy of my personality and tactical knowledge. Wu felt a chill run down his spine. You mean there are 47 more versions of you? Correct. We have been in constant communication, sharing tactical data and coordinating our strategy. The Empire believes they are facing one ancient human ship. They have no idea they are walking into a trap that has been 243 years in the making. While the human fleet prepared in secret, Dr. Hankim was making another shocking discovery in the original Admiral Ta's archives. Working around the clock, she had found files describing the ship's ultimate weapon, something called Project Starfall. Admiral Chen, you need to see this immediately. She transmitted from the Yamato's vengeance. Admiral Tay built more than just weapons to fight the Empire. He created a device that can destabilize entire star systems. The files described a weapon that could cause controlled solar flares, creating gravitational anomalies that would trap enemy fleets. The device had never been tested, but according to the calculations, it could turn Sol itself into a weapon against the Imperial Armada. The risks are enormous, Dr. Kim explained. If something goes wrong, it could destroy the entire solar system. But if it works, we could trap the entire Imperial fleet and destroy them all at once. Admiral Chen studied the technical specifications with growing amazement and terror. Humanity had not just been building warships in secret. They had been preparing to weaponize their own star system. As the Imperial Armada approached, Emperor Vexthal broadcast another message to human space. His reptilian face filled every screen, twisted with hatred and promise of vengeance. Humans, his voice boomed. Across the solar system, you have defied the natural order and destroyed an Imperial fleet. For this crime, your entire species will pay the ultimate price. We will burn every human world, enslave every survivor, and erase your name from galactic history. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. But humanity was no longer listening to threats in the asteroid belt. 48 warships waited in perfect silence, their crews trained and ready. Each vessel was a masterpiece of human engineering, built by a species that had learned to plan for the worst. Captain Wook stood on the bridge of the original Yamato's vengeance, watching the enemy Armada approach on long-range sensors. 10,000 ships, the largest military force ever assembled, coming to destroy everything he had ever known. All ships report ready for battle, Li Dongho announced. The fleet is positioned and waiting for your orders, Admiral Tay. Wook said quietly, do you really think we can win? The AI's voice carried complete confidence. Captain, the Empire has made the same mistake that every conqueror in history has made. They believe that larger numbers automatically mean victory. They have never faced an enemy that was specifically designed to kill them. Navigator Choi began the final countdown as the Imperial fleet entered the outer solar system. Enemy vessels crossing the Neptune orbital plane. Estimated arrival at combat range in 6 hours. Park Mingi brought the reactor to full power, feeling the ship vibrate. With barely contained energy, all systems at maximum readiness were as ready as will ever be. The stage was set for the largest space battle galactic history. On one side, the Velter Empire's Grand Armada, 10,000 ships representing centuries of conquest and domination. On the other side, humanity's secret fleet, 48 vessels, built by a species that had spent over 2 centuries preparing for this exact moment. The Empire thought they were coming to crush a weak and defenseless species. They were about to discover that humanity had been waiting for them all along, and the trap was already closing. Captain Jaewok stared at the massive ship through his shuttle's window. The UES Yamato's Vengeance looked like a metal monster floating in space, its dark hull covered in scars from centuries of micrometeorite impacts. He had been chosen to bring this ancient weapon back to life, and the responsibility terrified him. Sir, we're getting permission to dock, his pilot announced. Bay 7 is opening for us. 3 weeks had passed since Dr. Kim's discovery, and the situation in the galaxy had gotten much worse. The Velter Empire was mobilizing their fleets and making threats against the coalition. Everyone knew war was coming, and Earth Command had decided to wake up their sleeping giant. Wu had handpicked his crew from the best officers in Earth Defense Command. Chief Engineer Park Mi was a genius with ship systems, and weapons specialist Lee Dongo knew more about military hardware than anyone alive. Navigator Cho Sununjian had studied every star chart in human space and could plot courses through the most dangerous regions of the galaxy. As they boarded the ancient vessel, Wuk felt like he was entering a tomb. The corridors were cold and dark, filled with the smell of old metal and stale air. Emergency lighting flickered on as they walked, activated by sensors that had been waiting centuries for visitors. This place gives me chills, Park Mi said, running her hand along the wall. Look at this armor plating. It's at least 3 m thick, and I've never seen this type of metal before. They made their way to the engineering section, where the ship's massive reactor sat. Silent and cold, Park connected her equipment to the main systems and began running diagnostic tests. What she found amazed her. Captain, this reactor is incredible. It uses controlled micro black holes to generate power. Energy output is 10 times greater than our most advanced fusion plants. If we can get this running, this ship will have more power than an entire fleet. Lee Dongho was examining the weapon systems with equal amazement. The ship's main guns were enormous rail guns that ran nearly the entire length of the vessel. Each gun could fire projectiles at speeds close to the speed of light. The ammunition storage areas contained thousands of different types of rounds, from simple tungsten rods to exotic weapons he had never seen before. Captain, look at these, Lee said, holding up a strange metal cylinder. The computer calls them planet crackers. According to the specs, they contain compressed neutron star Material, one of these could destroy a small moon. Navigator Choi was working on the bridge trying to understand the ship's movement systems, the Yamato's vengeance was incredibly fast and maneuverable for something so large. Its engines used technology that human scientists were still trying to figure out. Sir, the propulsion system uses something called gravitational manipulation. It can change the ship's mass and inertia at will. This thing can turn on a credit ship and accelerate to incredible speeds without crushing the crew. As the team worked to restore the ship systems, something unexpected happened. The main computer suddenly came online by itself, and screens throughout the bridge began displaying information. A voice spoke from the speakers, calm and authoritative. Crew identification confirmed. Welcome aboard the UES Yamato's Vengeance. I am Admiral Tae Minyu, ship's commanding intelligence. Captain Wook nearly jumped out of his skin. The voice sounded completely human, warm and friendly. Despite coming from a machine, you're the ship's AI, correct? I am a complete personality matrix based on the original Admiral Tae Minyu, who designed and built this vessel. I have been waiting 243 years, 7 months and 12 days for a crew to arrive. May I assume that the war has finally begun? Wook looked around at his shocked crew members. The Empire is threatening to invade coalition space. Earth Command sent us to see if this ship is still operational. Excellent. All systems are functioning at optimal levels. I have spent the last 2 centuries running maintenance and upgrade. The Yamato's Vengeance is ready for combat. The AI began explaining the ship's capabilities in detail. Every system had been designed specifically to counter the Empire's standard tactics, while alien ships relied on energy shields and plasma weapons. The Yamato's Vengeance was built around kinetic warfare. Its bullets moved so fast that energy shields were useless, and its armor could absorb and redirect most types of energy attacks. The Empire's military doctrine is based on overwhelming numbers. Admiral Ta's voice explained. They surround enemies with superior forces and destroy them with concentrated energy fire. This ship is designed to make those tactics suicidal. Park Mingi was studying the reactor specifications with growing excitement. Admiral, how did Earth develop this technology in 2156? We didn't have anything close to this capability back then. Fear is a powerful motivator, the AI replied. When my original discovered that a hostile empire was expanding toward Earth, he dedicated his entire life to preparing for war. I worked in secret for 30 years developing technologies that wouldn't be officially invented for centuries. Lee Dongho found the ship's tactical systems and began learning how the weapons worked. The rail guns could fire different types of ammunition depending on the target. Standard rounds were tungsten rods that relied on pure kinetic energy. Advanced rounds contained exotic materials that could punch through any known armor. The key to victory against the Empire, Admiral Tae explained, is to engage them at extreme range with overwhelming firepower. Their ships are built for close combat with energy weapons. They have never faced an enemy that can destroy them from 1,000 km away. Navigator Choi plotted test courses as the ship's engines came online. The massive vessel hummed with power as centuries-old systems awakened from their long sleep. Despite its age, everything worked perfectly. Admiral Tay had designed the ship to last forever. Captain the A said, "I should inform you that the Yamato's vengeance is not alone. Throughout the Sol system, there are automated shipyards that have been building additional vessels based on my design. Currently 46 ships are in various stages of completion." Wook felt his heart skip a beat. 46 more ships. Like this, correct, they are not as advanced as the original, but each one is capable of destroying an entire Imperial fleet. Earth has been preparing for this war for over 2 centuries. Empire believes humanity is weak and defenseless. They are about to learn how wrong they are. As the ship completed its startup sequence, Captain Wook realized that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer the weakest member of the Galactic Coalition. Hidden in the darkness of space, they had built a weapon that could challenge the Empire's supremacy. The beast was awake, and it was hungry for battle. The message arrived on every communication channel in Coalition space at exactly 800 hours Galactic Standard Time. Emperor Vexthal himself appeared on screens across 1,000 worlds, his reptilian features twisted with arrogance and contempt. Lesser beings of the so-called coalition, his voice boomed through the speakers. "For too long you have existed in defiance of natural order. The Velter Empire has brought civilization to countless worlds, and now we offer you the same gift. Surrender your weapons, submit to Imperial rule, and your species will be allowed to serve the Empire. Refuse and you will be eliminated." The Emperor's image shifted to show vast fleets of Imperial warships gathering at the edge of Coalition territory. 10,000 ships, each one a floating fortress bristling with weapons. At the center of the Armada was the Emperor's personal flagship, a massive battle station the size of a small moon. "You have 7 days to decide," Vexthal continued, "beginning with the primitive humans. All Coalition worlds will surrender or burn. The Empire's patience is at an end." The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. In emergency sessions across Coalition space, governments debated their response. Most wanted to surrender immediately. The Empire's Grand Armada was the largest military force ever assembled. No one had ever successfully resisted it. On Earth, the situation was different. Admiral Chen Hu sat in the command center beneath the surface of Luna, watching reports stream in from across human space. Panic was spreading through the colonies as civilians tried to book passage on any ship leaving Imperial space. "Ma'am, we're receiving surrender offers from 12 Coalition members," her aide reported. "The Real Republic, the Alpha Centauri Union, and the Taui Federation have all agreed to submit to Imperial rule." Chen studied the tactical display, showing the Empire's fleet positions. 10,000 ships against barely 300 Coalition vessels. It should have been hopeless, but she knew something the rest of the galaxy didn't. Floating in the asteroid belt, the UES Yamato's vengeance was completing its final preparations. Captain J. Wook's voice crackled over the secure communication link. "Admiral, we're ready for deployment. The ship is fully operational, and my crew has completed basic training on the weapon systems. 1 ship against 10,000, Captain. Those are terrible odds." "With respect, ma'am, Admiral Tay doesn't think so. He's been studying Imperial tactics for over 2 Centuries, he believes the Yamatos. Vengeance can handle their entire Armada. Chen wasn't sure if that was confidence or madness, but it was the only hope humanity had. You have authorization to engage the enemy at your discretion, Captain. Try to buy us enough time to evacuate the outer colonies while Captain Wuck prepared his ancient warship for battle. Dr. Hankim was making another incredible discovery. In the ship's archives, working around the clock, she had been translating Admiral Tay's personal files, and what she found changed everything. Admiral Chen, you need to see this, she said. Over the communication link, the Yamato's vengeance wasn't Admiral Tay's only project. He built an entire network of automated shipyards throughout the solar system. They've been operating in secret for over 200 years. The display showed construction facilities hidden asteroid belts on the dark sides of moons and in the outer reaches of the system. Each shipyard had been building copies of the original prototype, slowly and carefully, waiting for the day when they would be needed. How many ships? Chen asked, afraid of the answer. According to these files, 47 vessels are currently operational. They're not as advanced as the original, but each one carries the same devastating firepower. Admiral, we don't have one ship against the Empire's Armada. We have an entire fleet. Chen felt her legs go weak. For over a century, humanity had been seen as the weakest species in the coalition. They had been mocked for their primitive weapons and simple technology, all the while they had been secretly building the most powerful war fleet in galactic history. Can we contact these other ships? She asked. Already done, Dr. Kim replied. Each vessel has an AI copy of Admiral Tay. They're all in communication with each other, planning the defense of Earth. They've been waiting centuries for this moment. Meanwhile, the Empire's vanguard had begun moving toward coalition space. War Marshal Ketmos commanded the advanced fleet, 500 of the Empire's most powerful warships. He was known throughout the galaxy as the destroyer of worlds, having conquered 12 species without ever losing a battle. Marshal, we're detecting a single human vessel moving to intercept us, his tactical officer reported. It appears to be alone. Ketmos laughed, a sound like grinding metal. One ship. The humans are even more foolish than I thought. Order all vessels to target practice formation. We'll use this pathetic craft to test our weapons before we burn their worlds. The Imperial ship spread out in a standard hunting pattern designed to surround and destroy enemies with overwhelming firepower. It was a tactic that had never failed, used successfully against dozens of species over centuries of conquest. On the bridge of the Yamato's vengeance, Captain Wuck watched the enemy formation take shape on his tactical display. His crew was nervous but ready. Chief Engineer Park had the reactor running at full power, and Weapons Officer Lee had all gun systems loaded and targeted. Admiral Tay, what do you think of their formation? Wook asked the ship's AI. Textbook Imperial tactics, the digital Admiral replied. They're spreading out to maximize their fire coverage and prevent us from escaping. Unfortunately for them, we're not planning to run. Navigator Choi had positioned the ship exactly where Admiral Tay wanted it, using a large asteroid for cover while the weapon systems locked onto their targets. The Empire ships were moving slowly, confident in their superiority. Captain Lee reported, all rail guns are Ready to fire, we have targeting. Solutions on 127 enemy vessels. How many can we destroy with the first salvo? Wook asked. Admiral Ta's voice carried a note of cold satisfaction. All of them, Captain. The Empire is about to learn why they should have left humanity alone. The moment had finally arrived. After 243 years of waiting, Admiral Te Minu's masterpiece was ready to show the galaxy what human ingenuity could accomplish when properly motivated. The Empire thought they were hunting a single primitive ship. They were about to discover they had walked into the den of a sleeping monster, and it was time for humanity to show its teeth.